So as we start getting started this evening, I just want to ask, are you all able to hear me without a microphone?
Yes.
I'm loud enough, I don't know. So first off, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. As a matter of housekeeping, we'll do a presentation tonight. There'll be an opportunity for you guys to ask me some questions at the end. We also have comment cards over where you came in, and I'll ask one of our administrators to pass those on to you. If you have questions about what we're presenting, and you feel more comfortable writing those questions down, what we're doing is creating a frequently asked questions document that will be on our website. So Ben Casao is our director of PR in the district. He'll be taking those questions down this evening. We'll be putting the questions and the answers online. If you feel like directing any of your neighbors, friends there, we're happy to do that for you. But again, question cards are over there. We also have a couple sign-ups, completely voluntary, but if you wish to get direct emails from us on this project, as the FAQ document is updated, as other dates are available, please feel free to sign in, put your name down, put your email down there. We're not asking for your address, your phone number. We won't call you in the middle of the night or very early in the morning. Again, purely informational for you. So we'll have that there. We also have a document down there that talks about our academic progress thus far. It's our triad. We have a card that gives you information for our other information nights, and also also the address for our website. Then we do have the most current mailer that is going to go out to you that talks about this project specifically. So if you don't have any of that with you right now, those will be there for you this evening. So again, thank you for being here tonight. We're here to talk about this upcoming project. Referendum. The vote is on April 2nd. We'd like to start out tonight just giving a little bit of an overview of how we're doing as a school district. We're very proud of where we're at academically. We're in the top 10% of K-12 public school districts in the state of Wisconsin. So there's 367 K-12 public school districts in the state. We're in the top 10% of those. We're 24th in the state in the area of student achievement. We're 9th for on-track post-secondary readiness. And we're in the top 25 for both math and English language arts achievement. Further, our forward exam results from 22-23, 64% of our grades 3 through 8 students met proficiency. Just want to take a minute here. Proficiency doesn't mean you can read. Proficiency does not mean you can do math. There's a benchmark that the state sets every year based off of student performance, and they determine the proficiency levels. So when you see proficiency, you might look at that and say, well, 36% of our kids can't read. That's not the case. We have a very high graduation rate. We have students who do very successful. It's how they performed on that test on that day. And for support of that, 65.4% of our grade 3 students, third grade is a huge milestone for us in the area of literacy. 65.4% are meeting proficiency. It's the highest of the K-12 districts in Waukesha County. So we are very, very proud of that number, to be the highest in third grade literacy across Waukesha County. That's a huge benchmark for us to hit. It's the result of a tremendous amount of work that our teachers, administrators, students, and parents have done over the last several years. We have 2 schools in our district that are National Blue Ribbon schools. We have one that is a National Green Ribbon school, awarded this year. We're a proud member of the Classic 8 Conference for athletics. We offer 100 activity and athletic opportunities for our students. Our mill rate, so our rate of taxation, has been below the state average for the last 35 years. We have a AA bond rating from Standards & Poor. So if you're not familiar with bond rating, that's our credit score. So like you would have a credit score for buying a home like I do, our AA rating is a very high credit score for our district. And we continue to pass repeated taxpayer-friendly budgets. So we, in 2018, completed the referendum and the remodel work at our high school. And so we just have some slides up here, some pictures up here showing you the benefits that a referendum can have on a school system. Top right corner, you can see the beautiful PAC at the high school. In the middle area there, you can see the commons. On the left-hand side, another picture of our commons where our students eat lunch, have large group study halls where we do a lot of meetings. We invite the community in to use that. The lower left is the West Gym, premier facility for athletics in our area. And then we've remodeled our career and technical education areas, the center photo there, and our media center on the bottom right. So the work that was done at the high school had a tremendous impact on the student experience at our high school. Again, we're very grateful for what the community gave us, and we're very proud of what was able to be accomplished. Our timeline on this goes back to 2015, and we do want to highlight that, because this was not something that we thought of just out of nowhere. Our 2015 date started to talk about what we needed to do at the high school. That went to referendum in 2016. The work was completed in 2018. And then in November of 2020, we revisited our long-term facilities project. So 3.5-ish years ago, we began the work to talk about where we're at today. That went over a 2-year period of time where we reviewed our buildings, we reviewed our needs, we looked at where our 4-year-old kindergarten program was at that time. In April and May of 2023, we held 4 focus group sessions with the community. And then we went to the board in December of 2023 to see if they would be willing to go to referendum, in which they said they would. So on December 18th, the referendum question by the board was approved to go to ballot this April. We surveyed our community in the fall of 23 to ask you what would be the level of support. So of the people who we surveyed, we asked some questions, general questions about our district. And 89% of the people who responded to the survey viewed us as doing a great job or a good job at managing our funds appropriately. And 75% said that we were doing a good or great job managing our funds. I'm sorry, providing a high quality education was the 89%, 75% was our funds. Apologize for that. 65%, the bottom left, said that they would support the district pursuing a referendum. So of all the responses we had back, 65% of the respondents said that they would support a referendum. When we attached the price tag, the $102.3 million, 63% said that they would support that to build a new middle school and to create 4-year-old kindergarten at each of our elementary schools. We asked a second question, for those of you who participated in that survey, we asked a second question because there was some need identified at the community focus groups at MHS to expand our technology education classrooms, and then to look at a multi-purpose indoor facility. And we found that only 47% of the community said that they would support that part of the project, so we took that part of the project off. We're not pursuing that project right now. Could be a future work for us if the community said yes to it, but right now that is completely off the table. So on April 2nd, this is the exact question that you will see on your ballot. And I'll leave it up there for a minute. But the highlight of this question is $102.3 million referendum to support the building of a new middle school, to remodel 5 of our elementary schools to accommodate our 4-year-old kindergarten spaces, and to do some general work around the district in the realm of capital maintenance. So the need, how did we get here over all the time? So Parkview. Parkview has served for over 50 years as our middle school. Our community survey and our facilities review process identified needs around space and the need for flexible learning opportunities for our students. So the next couple of slides have some pictures around Parkview, of our classroom spaces, where kids are congested in there, our hallways are congested. The music classrooms at Parkview, if you've had a chance to be by MHS, near the Performing Arts Center, when you drive by at night, you can see the lights on in those music spaces. Those ceilings in there are very tall, about as tall as the middle of this. Our current classroom spaces for music, I believe, are 9-foot ceilings. Very low. They're very difficult for our teachers to teach in. They're very difficult for our students to learn and perform in. Here are some more pictures of that. We do have areas of our building, and you'll see a couple pictures of this lift on the side, that are very difficult for individuals with disabilities. It's not an easy building to get around if you're on crutches or you're in a wheelchair. We have gym space. Our buildings are used from approximately 6 o'clock in the morning when staff starts rolling in and some student athletic teams start rolling in, to about 9 o'clock at night when our teams are departing from practice. Parkview Middle School is one of the sites that's used most heavily, as is MHS. There's the lift again. It splits between some of the music spaces and the gym spaces. The picture on the left is the original gymnasium that was built at this location in the 1954 year when it first opened as the area senior high school. We have some specialty programs, our family and consumer education, formerly known as home economics. Those classrooms served their purpose when the building was originally built. They've been maintained, but they're much smaller and out of date of what the current recommendation is and what our current student need and use is for our academics. This is the cafeteria. One thing to note about school cafeteria is it does help dictate what the school schedule is, because you have to be able to serve lunch. The number of meals that you need to serve every day can dictate then how many lunches you need to have, how much space you have. So this is our middle school cafeteria here. We currently have a little over 750 students. We have 4 lunches that occupy the middle of the day. Obviously, you have to wait a little bit to start lunch. You can't start it in the morning or early morning. You usually start it late morning and it goes into early afternoon. Our library, which will be open to walk through a little bit later, is small. It doesn't give us a lot of flexibility for instructional purposes, for library instruction, or for student use. Our tech ed courses, we're extremely proud of our CTE opportunities at the high school. One of the things that I didn't mention enough when we were talking about the high school project was the expansion of our career and technical education. That was identified as a need and a priority in our community and a priority in the work. The program has expanded such that we're actually considered this year that we need to do additional work there. Our middle school spaces do not do enough service to what we need to do in order to prepare our kids for what that high school program is. You can see our students are working in the hallways and that they have very small lab space up there, particularly in the area of STEM classes, the science, technology, engineering, and math that we offer. One of the things that we are trying to accomplish with this project is to relieve some of the pressure on Veterans Way and Highway 83. For those of you who drive through there in the morning or in the afternoon, you're familiar with the congestion, the backup, and just some of the issues that go with that. This is actually a very favorable picture, I would say. This would be at about the beginning of the pickup time. Luke, is that about accurate? Oftentimes that traffic is snaked out and wrapping around the So Parkview need, when we did our community listening sessions, we had 4 focus groups. You can see on this sheet, focus group 1. We put those sheets out and we asked the community to give us some feedback on priorities, what they were looking for in the project, what are some of our needs. And so what we looked at was, for this building, a couple of options. One of which was, do we renovate the current building? And if we renovate that building, what does that mean for us? When we paired that conversation with our 4-year-old kindergarten discussion, we were looking at having to shift the 6th graders from the elementary schools to the middle school. So when we looked at the scope of that work, it would be an estimated $85 million to renovate this building in order to do a substantial renovation that would allow us to bring 6th graders in. That wouldn't do anything to help our site, meaning it would not do much to help this intersection that we currently have, where we're right up against it. It wouldn't help the traffic, it wouldn't help the community. The project, if it were a renovation, would cost, I think it was 88%, yes, 88% of the cost of the new building. So the cost of the renovation was high, the cost of the new building isn't that much more expensive. The renovation would be completed over multiple years and it would be disrupting the learning environment. So it would be happening at night, on weekends, over breaks, over the summer, or as some projects go, we would be repurposing current spaces in the building. We would be moving classrooms to those spaces as renovations were happening in certain areas of the building. And then you'd be kind of leapfrogging through the school. So the renovation would have disrupted learning. It would have taken a year longer to complete. And then again, the traffic congestion, given the current site, was going to be an issue. We have capital needs at Parkview right now. So one of the reasons why we're coming here is in the next few years, we have about $7.2 million worth of work that needs to be done on this building in the form of parking lots, exteriors, fire alarm systems, flooring, and so on. So the $7.2 million, do we reinvest in the building after the community focus groups, after the results of the survey? We felt it was a good time to come to the community and say, do you support the new school, or what's our next steps then with the current building? Here are some photos of the exterior of Parkview. You can see in some areas the building is in need of work. Again, that goes back to the previous slide as to the investment. We have tuck pointing that needs to be done. We have some concrete work. We have some windows that need to be replaced. We have flooring and ceiling tiles that need to be addressed. And then we have the mechanicals of the school. We are at end of life with many of the things that we have in this building, from an HVAC system and controls. And Andy Wagner is here tonight. If you have questions afterwards, you can speak to them a little bit more. Andy's our Director of Buildings and Grounds. But our systems are at the end of life, nearing the end of life, or have exceeded end of life, and we've kept them going to keep our building up and running. The additional need, and we had some questions come in about 4-year-old kindergarten. Why 4-year-old kindergarten? We survey our parents every year around 4-year-old kindergarten. We began 4K in the district, I believe it was in 2015. We were one of the last school districts in the state to adopt 4-year-old kindergarten for our kids. And every year that we've implemented it, we have reached out to our parents to talk about, like, how satisfied are you with the program? How satisfied are you with your child's experience, and what do you need out of it? When we began 4-year-old kindergarten, we had 6 partner sites in the community. We did not have space for it in our elementary schools, so we worked with some of our community partners to see if they would be willing to house it. At present, we only have 3 community partners left. So the community partners that we had, they did a good job, but either due to enrollment or to leadership management in their locations, they've discontinued having those sites. And that's required us as a school district to shift around some of our elementary spaces so that we could accommodate some 4K. We have 4K at Clarendon, at Big Bend, and those are full-day programs. We have half-day program at Prairie View. But with that, our buildings are at capacity right now, and our interest for 4-year-old kindergarten is high. We hear that year after year from our parents. When we do our 4K enrollment, we have a lot of interest, and a lot of interest very early on because parents want a seat in one of our schools. So as we do this, as we go through the next few slides, we'll talk a little bit about those 4K and what our solution is. So the solution that we settled on, that we surveyed, so when you participated in that survey in the fall, was building a new 1,200 student middle school that would house grades 6 through 8. We would demolish Parkview Middle School, and I'll show you a rendering, kind of a general rendering picture of the site in a little bit. We would be looking at enhancing our classroom experience for students, classroom spaces, and our lab spaces. We would create specialized spaces for performances. A proposed aspect of the project is a very large cafeteria with a performance stage to help our middle school students have the experiences that they have. Currently, this is the stage at Parkview. If you've been in the Performing Arts Center, you know how big that stage is and what it looks like. We'd be trying to find a happy medium in between so that our middle school students who are performing would have an opportunity to practice in the space. It would also create a flexible classroom space for our teachers to use. What we're looking at doing too is putting a big 3-court gym on. So the west gym that I showed you in the first slide, we'd be looking at replicating that size or thereabouts at the new middle school. We'd be looking at separating pedestrians and vehicle traffic. So currently, and Luke, you're going to have to help me kind of point out, the buses come in out by where the front office is.
Highway 83.
On Highway 83. Our parents come in off of Veterans Way. They're all flowing out nearly in the same spot. And when our students are walking to school, they're walking along those same sidewalks. So when we'll show you the picture, we're looking at pulling the building away from the intersection to provide a little bit of a buffer to help our parents and our students and our buses, our walkers, as they come to school. We have the potential of creating a shared bus drop-off between our middle school and Clarendon, and we'll show you that in the picture. Clarendon currently drops students off on the road. This parking lot behind this proposed school would provide a space where those buses would be off the road. We'd be looking at energy efficient systems and lighting systems in the school, and then maintaining the practice fields that we currently have on the property and the track, but just repurposing or configuring the property. So this is the proposed layout of what we're talking about here. You can see on the top left here the existing middle school. It's that dashed line. That would be demolished. We would be putting our practice fields, our baseball field, our football field, all where we're currently standing right now. Our new middle school would be on the current green space, in between our building here and the district office in Clarendon Avenue Elementary School. We would have the bus drop off along the back of the building with staff and event parking there as well. And then in the front, you can see where visitor and staff parking would be along with the parent drop off. So we would have parent drop off in the front, we would have bus drop off in the back. Again, separating that for safety purposes, but also convenience purposes coming in and out of the area. The benefits academically for our sixth graders, again with this project, we'd be moving sixth grade from the elementary level to the middle school. And we see enhanced opportunities around world language, mathematics, career tech ed, and music, and also being able to offer additional extra and co-curricular activities for our students, particularly our sixth graders who are at the elementary level. 4-year-old kindergarten, I'll show you some renderings shortly about the work that we'd be doing at the 4K level, but we would be adding 4K spaces at the elementary school. So for 4-year-old kindergartners, if you remember when your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, when they were 3, 4, 5 years old, they needed to have obviously room to play, but they also needed to have close proximity to a bathroom. We would be taking the sixth grade classrooms, which we have 3 of them designated at each of our elementary schools. We would be combining them into 2 classrooms. There were approximately 1,200 square feet each, but each of those classrooms would have bathrooms in the classroom. Again, for the convenience and the need of the student, those bathrooms would be right there. And we'd also be looking at reconfiguring some traffic flow around Big Bend. If you're familiar with where Big Bend Elementary School is, similar to what we face here at Parkview, there are some traffic concerns in the morning and the afternoon at drop off and pickup. So, Big Bend. We have a very busy intersection. We have the existing Big Bend Elementary School. If you look at the top portion of the drawing there, that would be a reconfigured space, again, to pull kids and parents away from the corner to alleviate a little bit of traffic that we have at the intersection. And here would be the classes. So the next few slides, you'll see the building layout is gray. The proposed renovated spaces you'll see as blue. So here we'd be looking at creating some 4-year-old kindergarten classrooms along with some flexible learning spaces where students could go for additional help and additional instruction. At Clarendon Avenue, we'd be looking at creating some special education and storage spaces in the middle of the building. Currently at the elementary level, we have locker rooms. They are not used as locker rooms anymore at the elementary level. Kids don't change for gym class. There's no requirement to take a shower afterwards. So right now they're being used as storage spaces. We'd be using that for part instructional, part storage. We'd also be looking at then renovating those 4-year-old kindergarten spaces at the end of the hallway. Rolling Hills, similarly, we'd also update the 5-year-old kindergarten classroom. At Prairie View, we'd be renovating the 5K space there, and then those 4K spaces. As we had to shift the school around, the 5-year-old kindergarten would be moving into this location. At Section, we'd be doing some updates to do a special education space. And then also those 4-year-old kindergarten classrooms, 5-year-old kindergarten classrooms at the bottom of the building. And now the investment. As we were talking at the beginning of this, some of the questions that were coming in, some questions that we've had. So how much is this going to cost and where is it going to go? So a little bit of a background on our fiscal position. Going back to 93, 94, this is when the revenue limit was set for school districts. So we've had this revenue limit formula in place for school funding for 30 years now. At that time, the school board in Mukwonago had a limit to work with of $5,320 per student. That was the lowest in Waukesha County at that time. At the time, it was below the state average. And we're very proud of this as part of our history. We have provided a high quality of instruction, we've maintained our facilities while being the lowest taxing and lowest revenue authority district in the county. In 2022, 2023, you can see where we're at from a funding standpoint. We moved up one. Merton came on the list. There we're at $10,000 in 22-23. We were at $10,016 in the 22-23 school year. You can see where the state average was and where our other Waukesha County comparables were. For perspective, from a funding standpoint, just as a comparison, so going to the 22-23 school year, our funding revenue limit per pupil, or revenue per pupil, was $10,016. In New Berlin, it was $11,659. In Mukwonago, we had 4,659 resident students. New Berlin had 4,318 students. Our total revenue was $46.6 million. New Berlin's was $50.3 million. So New Berlin, with 300 less students, generated $3.6, almost $3.7 million more than we did in Mukwonago. So I offer that for you as perspective because that's the funding that we've been working with over the last 30 years. Our mill rates, this would be in the CISA 1 region, so the southeastern Wisconsin. We're number 29 out of 39 with our mill rate. If our high school debt were paid off totally, we would be below $5 on mill rate. And so one of the things, when you look at the mill rates across all of these districts, one of the things that we ask is, what are we going to be able to do with the investment that we have? So right now, that 620 includes our current high school debt. Here's a chart again that graphs this out historically. So despite our low funding, we've repeatedly approved balanced budgets. We set aside funding at the beginning of the year to handle our known building needs. An example of this, we currently have part of the roof, the old roof at MHS, which is scheduled to be replaced this year. We are funding that out of our own budget. We have roofing work that needs to be done at Clarendon. We're preparing to do that the following summer. That is money that we're going to be spending out of our own budget to do that. So we're handling our capital maintenance. Our post-employment benefit and liabilities are pre-funded, so we have covered our post-retirement liability. We did a presentation at our board meeting 2 weeks ago, I'm trying to get my dates correct, 2 weeks ago, and we're at, I think it was 99.6% funding for that. And that is an extremely favorable position to be in for your post-retirement liability. Our 2000 referendum debt, we've been prepaying on that debt. So in September of 2020, our refinancing saved taxpayers $750,000. In May of 22, we repaid $5 million of that debt. In May of 23, we prepaid $1.5 additional million. And based off of this trajectory, we are at the point where we're saving our taxpayers $2.8 million in interest over time. So we're currently on track to pay off the high school referendum if we did nothing right now in a 10-year window on a 20-year bond. So we'd be set to pay that off 10 years early. So this project, right? We saw in the question, we saw the price tag $102.3 million. It's going to have a 69-cent impact on the mill rate. So $69 per $1,000 of per $100,000 property value. I'm sorry, per 100,000. And you can see on an annual basis, based off of the fair market value of your home, what the estimated annual investment would be, and then the estimated monthly investment. We do have a calculator on our website where you can go, you can plug in the value of your home. That will generate approximately where you would be at on the tax impact. So if your home is more expensive or less expensive, you'd be able to see where that is at. The mill rate impact of the referendum So we're currently at 620. We're estimating we'd be at 620 in the 24-25 school year. If you added that 69 cents to that mill rate, we'd be at 689. If you look back 2 years on the chart, our mill rate in 21-22 was $7.57. So I'll offer that as perspective as to what this project would cost additional on your tax bill. The project breakdown for the program, or for this proposal, the middle school site development would cost $9.3 million. The demolition of the existing middle school would be $1.7. The building construction of the new middle school would be $86.2 million, for a project total for the 6 through 8 of being $97.3 million. The 4K and the elementary work, we'd be looking at the site development at Big Bend. That would be that parking lot parent drop-off that I showed you on the slide. We're looking at almost $400,000 for that. And 4K renovations coming in at $4.6 million. So the total investment all in then is $102.3. So tonight you're here. We'll have an opportunity for questions in a minute, and then an opportunity for tour after that. We have another one coming on March 4th at Parkview, and another one March 13th here. So I know that that was a lot of information. Are there any questions that I can answer tonight? Yes, sir, in the back.
Taking a look at this footprint on the existing versus the new.
Yep.
Is this a two-story building we're looking at?
We're looking at a 3-story building.
Three-story building.
So we're currently, just for perspective, Andy, Parkview is
117,000 square feet.
and we're looking at a building that would be somewhere in the realm of 235,000 square feet.
Okay, and
Repeat
then
that again, please.
So the current Parkview is 117,000 square feet. The proposed building, the 6 through 8 building with the gym and the cafeteria space that I mentioned, we're looking at about 235,000 square feet. Sorry.
yeah, the school seems to be a pretty good shape. I mean, when you really take a look at it, it seems to be been involved. Okay, and I understand. It sure seems a shame to me take a look at this if this building would be destroyed. Okay. Was there any talk of adding on to this space?
So yeah, we did look at what the renovation would be here. And the renovation of this current building was going to be 88% of the cost, so about an $85 million investment to renovate the current Parkview to get us the classroom space that we would need, the gymnasium space that we would need, to accommodate 6th grade, plus the athletic and cafeteria spaces that we would need to serve the
But
kids.
I'm not talking about complete renovation of this building. I'm talking about upgrading the AC and possibly what you could do is like kind of like what they did at high school, go ahead and combine the systems and go ahead and build new systems in between to accommodate the existing structure we have here, and then an addition on to that, if you follow, rather than having this building demolished. You talk about renovations of a scope, okay, of providing for a new facility, and then you apply a cost equivalent to a new facility. When in reality, you could go ahead and accommodate an expansion of this building, okay, possibly for less money. Is that ever entertained? Is that thought ever entertained?
Tom Cardhauser is our Director of Business Services, and he led, up until us getting to that survey, Tom was involved in a lot of the planning, so.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was at the village of Mukwonago earlier tonight. I came here as soon as I could. So the discussion to renovate the existing Parkview Middle School versus building new was discussed and considered and debated back and forth. We heard from folks that felt that there was always a school on this site, and that was important to them. I think that kind of led us to the conclusion that if we're going to build a new school, we're going to keep it on this piece of land and not move it somewhere else. But at the end of the day, when we worked last April and May, we had 4 community focus groups. The recommendation from the community was loud and clear: if you're going to do this project, build new. That was the recommendation we heard from the community at that time.
Can I add on to his great question? We say that
rebuilding the school will be tough because it's going to be harder on the students and it's going to be a 2-year process. Isn't that what we just did for the high school? Didn't we renovate, shuffle stuff around to get all the students moved to rebuild the high school?
In that instance, yes.
So then why is that different here?
I think because Mukwonago High School is continuing to serve a 9 through 12 building. In this discussion, this is to expand by 400 additional students, which is 50% of the size. And given the load-bearing walls and the configuration, the layout, the traffic doesn't change if we keep it here. If we push it back, we start to change a lot of things that I think would improve the community.
But that's what I'm getting at. Do you consider using the space where you're going to put the new middle school as a place to expand the current middle school? Was there ever a discussion of expansion?
Yes. To this side of the building, to the north and to the east. You really can't go west, can't go south.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, did you consider expansion of this building rather than complete renovation? Just adding on to this building?
Yes, that was an $88 million price tag that we talked about. The option that we like to expand, add on to it, renovate this building, the cost of that.
And you don't know what the renovation project would actually look like, this building. What that $88 million would actually give us. You know, is it adding on additional gym spaces? Was that on an entire new gym? You know, there's some things that we might have thought about doing that would be a little less expensive. I'll let you finish your answers to his question and I'll jump in.
So what I do want to point out though, and I'm just going to go back to the slide so that you can understand the timeline that we followed. So the discussions, when we brought community focus groups in, we had 250 some odd participants give us feedback on the projects in their, I guess, what would be their infancy. Here's the ideas, here's what we're trying to consider. So if I can, please. So we asked those folks to give us feedback as to where we needed to go. They weighed in on the direction of where the project should go. Do we remodel or do we build new? The folks that participated in that indicated strongly that we should build new, based off of what were the projected costs. From there then, and I just want to reiterate, we did go to the community and we asked for feedback as to what would be supported at this time. We had 3,100 responses to that survey. It was about 400 more than we had in the high school project back in 2016. And we used that feedback then to continue this discussion to where we're at today, where we're asking the community if this is what you would support. So yes, renovation was considered, addition was considered. Based off of those conversations though that we had, it led us then to propose this project to you.
Who were included in the focus groups?
We had parents.
Everyone in the community was invited through our normal channels, through the triad, that's the district-wide mailing. We invited everybody in the district to attend the 4 meetings.
Of the 250 focus group, how many were actually students, school employees, district employees? Obviously, they'll be in the triad, probably a lot more than I was, but I wasn't there. And I hadn't seen this, or I hadn't had a sniff of this until this came out. Okay, so I missed this 3 years ago. So of the 250 people that are in the focus group, how many had some need for Parkview, some need for the 4K programs? Who were these mostly school employees? Are these the ones that would have been part of the triad look? If that makes sense.
No,
So
there was a, go ahead.
Yeah, so at the community focus.
Community members that came. There were many, I went to, were there 4 or were
There were 4,
There
yeah.
were 4. And I didn't realize, this is what I didn't realize. I didn't realize that each one was going to have a different focus. So I skipped
So you
one.
couldn't put them together?
No, so I skipped one thinking that it was going to be a repeat, and it wasn't. But one of them was more geared to employees. One of them was geared more to individual buildings. And so I would say that there was, everyone I went to, I don't think there were ever, other than the presenters, I don't think there were ever a whole lot of the same people there.
We had the 4 focus groups were to consider the new needs of the middle school, needs of the elementary school, needs of the high school, and then the 4th final is a wrap up. And we saw feedback the entire way. Because at the end of the day, the community, these buildings are assets of the community. and it'll be the community's choice as to where we go with it. It always has been, always will be.
I can say I went to three of the four meetings. There was a well-rounded balance of people that had kids, and then there was retired people, and there's a well-balanced group.
The first meeting discussed the options I think you're asking about. We have those, the presentation we talked about and presented to the community focus group is available on our website. You can see exactly what the proposal was to renovate and expand Parkview Middle School. Those details are there for you.
Okay, if you're looking at a three-story building now, how many elevators would you be looking at?
We have to look at our clinic.
Generally, one would be required.
You have one elevator for the special ed.
Wait, for 1,200 students, one elevator?
One elevator,
Yes, everybody uses the
elevator
elevators.
like me, the substitute here. Okay? You have to deal with the high school. Get out of the steps, and the steps, of course, that and the doors. Okay? But I think you know what I mean. You also know maintenance spots in the elevator. Okay, so I'm in a three-story structure. Kids going 3 stories up, 3 stories down. Okay? I don't know, one elevator is gonna cut it.
So the elevator would not be a general use elevator. The elevator would be specific for students who had a physical requirement to use one, or staff members who had a physical requirement to use one. And that's consistent practice in schools. The elevator isn't just an open, I apologize, an open thing for everybody to use and access. You need to have a need to use that. Otherwise, students and staff would be using stairs to get up and down the levels over the course of the day, which again is common in schools.
Primarily, the way we've had the three-story portion of your classroom, such that the sixth grade sat on, seventh grade sat on, eighth grade. So it would be all focused.
You wouldn't have traffic going back and forth or the cafeteria similar to the high school. You have all those kids coming up and down the steps to get to the cafeteria. I'm just pointing these things out, because like I said, I took a look at this footprint, and you can see the footprint not much bigger than the school we got now. And now you're just saying there's gonna be 3 levels. And there's gonna be complications for that too. I think we can all appreciate that, right? And I think that more than one elevator probably should be required. In case one breaks.
Can you speak up a little bit? I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, no, I mean, the comment was, that
Breaks.
it might need an additional elevator in the event that one breaks or is out of use. And certainly things that will be considered as we get to that level of work. You know, where we haven't talked is, what do the classroom furnishings look like? What does the gym floor look like? What is the layout of locker room spaces at that time? That's not there. What we're looking at for you right now, though, is, again, this is what's coming forward as the project. We're asking if this is something that you support. And that'll be done on April 2nd. Is there feedback you can give us tonight, questions that we can answer for you to help make you as informed as you need to be on that day? Yes, sir.
One last question then. What is the interest rate? In other words, what are these bonds going to go at?
The interest rates on the bond that if this referendum were to pass would be 5.25 to 5.5. That's an assumption at this time. The rates are lower than that. But in an effort to not overpromise and underdeliver, we picked a higher value. So we feel good and confident that the values when it's finalized will be less than that.
That'd be a muni bond, and over how many years?
20, 21, 20 or 21, yes.
When was they rate from the last?
We refinance those and they're in the low 2s.
When will they become available?
When will the bonds become available? Well, I would imagine that we would do it in 2 waves. It's in the community's best interest to do a $10 million borrow. The way laws are written, it allows banks to bid on that, which gives us more competition and a lower rate. And then the remainder would go out through traditional bonding. But we would do that at some point in the summertime.
There's still plans to go ahead with the addition of high school?
No, high school's off the table now.
For how long?
So we're focused on getting the middle school. We're not talking about the high school. The community said we do not support this, and we will listen to the community on that project.
The phase project, I'm sorry.
I just want this gentleman here to say that first.
Yeah, I want to go back to your mill rate there. If I go off of my tax bill and look at what I'm paying a year extra with that referendum, I got $700 a year extra than I'm paying on my taxes. Now that was at 39 million. Now you're projected 102 million, was 2.5 times more than that referendum. And you're telling me I'm only going to pay $269 or $276 more? I find that hard to believe. My taxes are going to go up 2.5 times. So how am I going to afford that?
No, that's not the case here right now.
How can it not be the case? You took a $39 million referendum on the last one. I paid $700 a year extra on that. Now you want to take $102 million out, and I'm going to pay less? How does that, I don't know how your math works.
Our current debt levy is that we levy $6.2 million per year. We're able, within our debt levy, to keep our mill rates and all things considered in our overall tax levy.
Then why is my last bill up $700?
I guess without knowing more about your particular situation, I couldn't answer that question. If you had a new assessment and you have a higher fair market value
It all goes off of mill rates. Your assessment means nothing. It goes off your mill rate.
no, the assessment does matter.
No, it goes off the mill rate, because the mill rate goes down after you get assessed. And you got X amount of dollars that they use, and that's what it's broke up at.
I would like
But that
you have a
referendum-
particular situation that I'd like to look at with you. Without knowing more about it, I simply can't answer.
That was one of the big leading questions I had to ask, and I don't know if you have the answer to it. We are currently being assessed as we speak in the town of Mukwonago.
Yes.
The village was reassessed last summer. Do you have any information as to how much the value of each of their homes went up?
No, I mean, for each individual house, no, that's
Well,
something.
not individual, but we're just in average.
Oh, the
You know, so that if you
district-wide
add
property
everything else,
values,
then we know.
district-wide property values have, over the last several years, have been in the range of 10 to 14%. Okay? When we project the mill rate in the future, we can't be that aggressive, assuming we're gonna keep growing. Everybody's house is gonna go up 10 or 15%. We use a conservative 2%
No, I was
increase.
just talking a little assessment, you know, my house was assessed this year at $250,000.
Mhm.
When is it gonna be assessed at next year?
Oh, I couldn't-
Which I thought maybe the village had given you some information on theirs, so that we have an idea of what our,
Yeah, so when an assessor stops by, there's individual things they observe about your house that affects your new assessed value. I couldn't possibly answer without knowing more about your house. I really just.
well, no, I was talking about generalities, because I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, the last time we were assessed years ago, our taxes went down, because our house was new, and nobody else had been reassessed for many years, but, you know, now we're the old house.
Mhm. I live in the town of Mukwonago, and I'll be reassessed with you here this coming year.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not the real estate guy, but I would estimate at least 12-15% on home values going up. If you look at the market has gone up more than that in the last 10 years. And the reassessments don't happen every year. So it's going to be a substantial change. Tell me about school perceptions. If we have such a solid plan in place, we have study groups or focus groups, and we've got a plan for these schools, how much have we paid school perception to give us this? How much has the district paid for that program?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'll provide that answer. I'll be happy to provide that answer. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Oh. Anybody?
12,000?
12,000?
12,000.
School Perceptions is, I'm sorry, I'm selling with Prairie Architects, I'm not affiliated with them. School Perceptions is a third-party surveying company. They really have no skin in the game, so they come in, help with the surveying, give the school board the findings, and that's their participation.
School perceptions has supplied you with this and us with this information and all the study results. I'm shocked that it's only 12 grand to do that work. But I guess,
School Perceptions didn't do any of the flyer work or any of that.
who did all the data?
Prairie Architects has helped assist the district with that.
Who's done all the analysis?
For the
On the
finances?
financing?
The
W.
total
Baird.
package, the survey results,
There's a,
who put the survey together? That's
School Perceptions.
So School Perceptions did the survey. The finances were developed by Baird,
Robert
Robert
W.
W.
Baird,
Baird
yeah.
Company. The local information was compiled by the district. So whatever we needed to provide around our academics, that was derived from the state assessments that we give. I don't know what.
And that's fine, I thought it'd be a lot more money than that.
No.
School perceptions, I've heard about them. And I know what their job is. Their job is to try to help sell a program for the school districts.
But if I could just clarify.
When I look at this sheet in front of us right now, you know what the average market value of a house in Mukwonago is? $412,000. We didn't hit that number at all. I don't know how many people actually have a $100,000 house. And maybe that's just an example. Estimated monthly at $5.75. That's not realistic, and that's what people are looking at. My house, I'm falling in line with this gentleman down here. I've done the math on the house based on the current tax rates. You know, and I'm looking at $40 a month. If you take it out to 21 years, that's $10,000 that I'm going to pony up. And that doesn't include phase 3. When is phase 3 coming, and what's the estimated cost of that one?
Phase 3 is, first things first here, correct? We're trying to focus on the greatest need and the forecast, and it would be a guess by me at best. Now, there's no conversation or consideration of phase 3 anytime soon.
Okay, are we talking 20 years out? 30?
When I don't know how to answer that, because you're asking me to forecast the future. That's a tough one to do. I'd love to give you a straight answer on this, but
I know you would.
If the St. James neighborhood, the St. James Farms were to be developed in the neighborhoods and we have a boom, if there's other neighborhoods that spring, then phase 3 becomes a different conversation. But until we see that, we're fine. We've done a long-range population analysis to say where will we be by 2035? How does that look? We looked at all the neighborhoods and all the farm fields and everything that's likely to be developed. We communicated with the municipalities to see if there's any developers that they're working with to look at future growth.
Okay.
And at this time, what we're discussing here is a solution for the district for a long time. I can't tell you when phase 3 might be. That depends on a lot of things that I simply couldn't answer.
Okay. Do you know how many referendums, the town, the village has been very generous to the school for a long time. Do you understand how many referendums that we've been through since 1998? You know, we talked about the money that we spend and you're under budget and all that kind of stuff, and I appreciate that. You know, I've had 4 kids come through the school system, and luckily now I'm just a grandparent of 10. But do you know how many referendums we voted on and passed?
K-12? Or
K-12.
we have that information. I do not have that number off the top of my head, but we can add to the frequently asked
I
questions.
have. We've had 7. Those 7 referendums have totaled $94.5 million. Of the referendums that have been proposed to the area, only 1 has failed, and that was for an $11 million referendum. But we still passed $94 million in referendums. And we still come back and we ask for another 102 after being asked for 49 for the high school. And then up to this point, we've also got 22 million you were asking for that's been dropped. It's like the tax base means nothing. You don't need our tax money. You don't need the state money. You're living off our referendums. You know,
That's not true.
well, okay.
That's not true.
Let me go back. The one that failed was a request for $11.2 million back in 12. And that was called out for maintaining existing educational programs. I don't know if anybody was around and remembered that. I don't see our music department failing. I don't see our football teams not playing. How did you get by without that $11 million?
That precedes, I think, well, that I came here in 2015. I couldn't speak to what happened in 2011, 12.
And so I guess the only thing that I would say monumental in the state that happened in 11-12 that changed revenues and the funding structure for schools was Act 10. And when Act 10 was implemented, the share of employee health insurance and the share of employee contribution to the WRS had a substantial impact on district funds. It freed up a lot of money. So I can't speak to the actual impact that that had, but I do know at that time, districts that were struggling financially, 2007, 8, 9, 10, after Act, they no fund balance, having difficult time with their payroll, having to do short-term borrow after short-term borrow. Those districts then began to accumulate a fund balance to handle a lot of the projects that we've talked about from a roof standpoint, a parking lot, to handle capital maintenance. Also with the shifts of budgets that you've seen, the insurance plans have been able to save money. Prior to Act 10 being signed, there was not the flexibility around health plans. The district paid the full contribution for retirement to the state. And so the funding, the dynamic was different. Post 2010-11, that's when districts were able to realize some savings and maintain programs, which was the benefit of Act 10. I don't mean to interrupt you, sir, but I do have there's
Just
another.
two statements. On that chart, I would go beyond the $400,000. I would go up to $1 million to show what it is, because the houses value out here, the town, and is going close to $1 million, some of them are.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be your assessed value, that's your.
Yeah, it would
that'd
be your assessed value.
No.
One of the things though that we do have, and again, I'll reiterate, on our website, we have a tax calculator. You can plug in your home value and it will show the impact of this project.
And second thing, have you talked to the village about this plan?
Yes.
We've presented to the village, we were there 2 weeks ago.
And they're okay with the 3-story building there?
They said they had only questions and there was no question about the size of the building.
And the fire
or the
department's
layout.
fine with it?
Could you just clarify
Because-
why? What's the need for it? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but 3-story building that hasn't, we haven't seen that.
So it's not uncommon to go to 3 floors. 1 floor for 6th, 1 floor for 7th, 1 floor for 8th, where you have 400 kid capacity across the academic wing of the building. So that's a way to use the property in such a way that you can build on district property where you're not looking at a big, wide, expansive school, but also do a really good job at stacking the school. Getting into the details of the project, you can realize some efficiencies when gas lines are saved, water lines are saved, because it all sits on top of each other. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I think what we're getting at is we're looking at an aggregate of taxes. You know, we went at one for the fire department, okay? And we take a look at assessments. I think we've covered an awful lot of those things. So what we're talking about is the aggregates that keep continuing to add up to a property tax bill. You know, the $600, $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. You know, for a lot of homes around here, if not more. Okay, so that has to be taken into consideration as well as far as the weariness for the taxpayer. The other thing is you kind of let the rabbit out of the hat when you talk about Act 10. With the current Supreme Court, the current governor, and now the district in mass, how much longer do you think Act 10 is going to be around? So we're not going to be right back down in that rabbit hole where we're getting sucked into these healthcare plans. These are considerations, you can't tell the future. I think the political landscape is there, and then also an understanding of the weariness of the taxpayer. You go ahead and put up the stuff, okay, mill rate, when I see those things, I couldn't want to destroy it. Well, our mill rate is only this, our mill rate is only that. Well, when I take a look at that, I look at, oh yeah, you guys are really being fiscally responsible, but what's my race at the top? You get what I mean? Okay. Well, I noticed on there in Berlin, as far as I understand, it's one of the best school districts in the state. Okay. And yet they were spending less, they had less, even though they had more state funding. Okay.
They have significantly more
They
funding.
have significantly more funding for fewer pupils.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a state funding problem, right? So, and I hear that all the time in East Troy. And indeed, what you are is you are sucking an awful lot of students from East Troy.
What I'll say is this, for 31 or 32 years, we've been the least funded school districts on a per pupil basis. That's been our story since 93, 94. Our operating tax levy is very low because of that.
Because the school board was always super efficient, even in the 70s, when high school and stuff was built. The school board was super, super efficient. And so when that came along, that's what it was built on.
And back then, in the 70s and going on, they had 0 fund balance going forward. Every year they had came out with 0 fund balance in the schools, which is no good.
I think that might be dangerous in some regards if you have no,
Well, that's the problem. The school board at that time felt that they should not have a fund balance, so they had it at a 0 fund balance for many years, and your predecessor had to fight like heck to get a fund balance.
What percentage of students just at the junior high are out of district?
where's Luke or Lee? Lee?
I don't know if I can give you the exact number. I know that we have 300 students leave our district under open enrollment, and we capture about 650 for 4K through 12th grade. So if that were to distribute equally across all the grades, 6, 12, 50, 100, right now 100-ish kids here under open enrollment, but that's, I'm ballparking that. So
That sounds, because you've got all those primary schools who are
Right.
feeding into
Yep.
one middle school.
everybody
So-
funnels into the middle school. We do have pretty high open enrollment coming into our high school. We have a lot of, our high school draws a lot of kids in. Ben?
Yeah, we have, according to the last year's data, we have 11.4% that were open enrollment just at Parkview. So take 11% of 750-ish kids, that's about 80 kids or so.
And I think that is a testament to the quality of the school system. And a new facility, our middle school facility is, again, I think probably needs to happen. Moving 6th grade here is a good concept, I think. Getting that out of there. 4K, as far as I understand, a lot of that's federal funds that are coming in, is that correct?
No, there's no federal funds for 4K.
It's all local or?
It's all state and local.
All right, well, either way, there's compelling arguments that way, but then we're borrowing money at 5 and 4%. Okay?
Just the estimate at this time.
Yeah.
We feel confident that it'll be lower when the time comes, if that time comes.
So you would be able to refinance that here in the
Yes.
next year or two? if we do
Yeah, I
something?
mean, we borrowed in the mid-3s and refinanced down to 2s, so we shaved out $750,000 when we refinanced in 2020. We'll take that opportunity every single chance we can get. We'll prepay debt every chance we can get. We'll shorten debt timelines every chance we can get.
What would be the total debt then as far as the school, the overall budget, what would the portion of debt be, that portion?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Can you ask that
Okay,
again?
as a percentage, you got the percentage of debt, you got the percentage of operating costs of the school system, and the overall budget.
Yes,
What would
sure.
be the percentage of debt?
I believe our tax levy, if this were to pass, would be in the range of $9 million just for the referendum debt in year one. The overall tax levy would be $35 million. So it would be 9 parts of 35 total parts. So less than 1/3,
Max.
about 1/4 of the overall tax levy.
So it'd be 25%.
About, yes.
I might have missed this, sorry if you've already explained this, but the first thing, the 30, I think 39 million or something, 40 million, that was, you're talking about that, who did that, is that, when is that paid off, or is that being absorbed into this too? Or
Yeah, so
is that separate?
So what we're doing right now is that we have a $3 million annual payment that we ultimately have to make. That's the minimum. No different than a mortgage, you have your basic amount, now you're free to pay more, right? And you can prepay any debt ahead of time. So right now, we're levying $6 million. We're paying off we're levying 6, and we have the opportunity to pay 2 years at a time. Our original debt timeline was the last 20 years. So we took out money in 2016, and it was going to end in 2036. If this project were tabled and we weren't talking about this, and we continue to levy $6 million, and we pay off basically 2 years at a time, we would cut this down in half the time. We would make our last levy in 2026, the fall of 2026, and be paid off in half the time.
Okay, so when will high school be paid off then?
2026.
26.
So
If this doesn't change.
if this, yeah, not, if we weren't talking about this and we tabled the whole conversation here, we'd be done in 2026, and your taxes would drop significantly at that time.
Okay.
Now, with all the moving parts considered, if this passes, taxes would increase by the 69 cents on the mill rate, and then it would stay at that point then for 20 or 21 years.
So then once we pay off the high school, right?
So what I said there is the all in.
That from the other end, it essentially would stay flat.
It's with everything, all variables considered, all in. It moves up 69 cents and then it stays that way into the future. And that considers when the high school debt drops off. We will basically look to do this, a $9 million tax levy, and keep that at $9 million for 20 years.
So essentially, you're already flatlining this debt.
Yeah, what we aim to always do is give a stable tax bill that doesn't fluctuate year to year. Our school board goal over the last 3 or 4 years has been to reduce taxes by 0.2%, so that when your K-12 portion of your tax bill shows up, that it's slightly decreasing. Now, does that happen for everybody? No, the assessments can change that. But we as a district, the overall amount of money we ask for, we try to like set the value and then drop into the future.
Now, can I make a suggestion then, that you add that to your slide deck?
Sure.
That projection of what that means, you know, when the high school debt's gonna fall off, when this will take on, and that will flatline, rather than comparison with other school systems.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, like I said, what that signals to me is, we're racing to the top. See, all these other ones are all spending more, so we gotta spend more too. You get what I mean? What you just explained to me is, hey, guess what? As far as your tax rate's concerned, we can't do much about assessments, we can't do much about a lot of other things. But the high school debt's gonna fall off in 2 years. This debt comes on, it's gonna replace that debt. Essentially, everything remains flat. Everything remains the same.
Right.
If you can find a graphic that shows that, I think that would go a long way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of 100% agree with what you're saying.
I mean,
That's a big point. You know?
Thank you.
2 questions. I was trying to do some digging. What's the school population look like today versus 5 years ago?
School
The
population.
district population.
We have hovered in the range of 5,000 students for several years now.
So
We are at 4,900 kids this year, but we've been as high as 5,100. We've been at 4,900 over the last couple of years, but we're always in that ballpark in the vicinity of 5,000 kids.
I know the state is down in total, so I didn't know if Mukwonago was suffering the same losses. It sounds like they're losing some.
Some, yep. With high interest rates, that really affects the number of people that are moving in. So home sales have never been lower at this time. The 2023 calendar year was really light. When you have high interest rates, it makes people want to, if they have a low interest rate, keep that low interest rate, stay in your house. So there is an economic trend that's, temporary, and at this time it's present. But that will, all economic trends come and go. And that will impact student enrollment.
The comments you're talking about with paying off the high school referendum first, getting that done by 27. Does the board not think about adding this project after that date and take a lot of angst out of the room? You look at,
I think to answer that question, if we were to say, okay, let's pay off the high school debt first and just settle it, right?
Mhm.
And then we can move on. In doing that, you are going to table the cost of a new building and let inflation run on it by tabling it for 4 or 5 years. And the cost of a building now versus what it will be in 5 years, it will go up. So it's which side do we choose here?
I think, not knowing we can't predict the future, I would say let's pay off the debt from high school, get it done as quickly as possible, then reapproach this. But we're well past that, I think. I don't think you can make that decision at this point.
No, I would say that if the community voted no, then we would be on that path. And the community will get the ultimate say in that, as they should.
Are we paying off any other old referendums besides just the high school? So that's the only one we have left?
Correct, yes. We have no other forms of debt.
And you talked about the cost of things going up 5 years from now. You do know that everybody in this room has suffered 17 to 19% inflation rates the last 3 years, depending on where you get the numbers. And just to add another 12, 13% increase to our property taxes is tough to swallow. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. I think there's timing and there's timing, and we didn't choose the right timing here.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just curious, you know, we're proposing the middle school, but that other vote that was potential for the community indoor center looking at the high school, has there been thought or consideration that we are adding to the middle school here and we have the land essentially, that could that have been part of conversation for an indoor gym in the middle school? Was that thought of as part of it, or were those just completely different?
Yeah, the thing that led to the discussion around that indoor facility was the expansion of the career tech ed programs at the high school. So the current tech ed programs would have gone into the South Gym.
Okay.
And that's where the auto shop, the small engine shop, some additional building trades would have been built into that area. And then that would have been taken offline as a facility for us.
Okay.
So that's why that other piece was discussed at that time.
Okay.
But ultimately not supported by those who responded.
Yeah, and I was part of that survey too. I was just curious because I know all the clubs around here are constantly fighting for that indoor facility. So.
The Village of Mukwonago issued a survey about what the village residents are looking for in terms of recreation and those things. And the number 3 thing that they had heard was a multi-purpose indoor facility. So that was the degree of evidence that fed into this, but ultimately, with all things considered, the community just didn't support it at the price and other competing needs. So
yeah, I just didn't know if that was something that was considered for the middle school because I know all the clubs are fighting for gym time.
I have 3 kiddos, or 2 kiddos, excuse me, I get it.
So, yeah. So I just,
The other reason we conceived of it at the high school too was when we built the new gym in the west there, we actually did plan like if they ever wanted, because there was a discussion during that time of building a larger gym, so they actually did kind of leave space for it. We never conceived of an indoor facility at that time. And it gives, the first inclination was to put it there. It's mostly going to serve those high school students and benefits, so it made the most sense to put it there. And, you know, putting it over here did make it less affordable, right? So that was kind of just conceived as kind of the best spot to serve it the best.
yeah, I just thought since we're building on here, if that was part of that too, because high school, middle school, elementary school kids, they're all fighting for that indoor gym, so it doesn't matter where in town it winds up. It's just because half the time soccer is played in the gym here by all the clubs. So.
Yeah, I think just to kind of echo what you say, I mean, I got little ones, you know, and I just think to myself, like some of the stuff you look at, and you're like, dang, $22 million. I get it's a lot, man, it's a lot. I got parents that live out here, and they're retired fixed incomes and stuff, you know. But you always wonder when you do, because you will address it at some point in time, you'll have to. You know, if that 22 million, they're gonna be looking at, now it's 50 million, you know, so I think that's part of the concern you're talking about doing it now versus waiting. If we done this 5 years ago, we may not have been 102, it might have been 80 million for a brand new school.
There is a cost of waiting, just the fact of that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Are the enrollment forecasts on the referendum website?
Yeah, but yeah, we have those out there.
Thank you.
The change in gym size from here to the new school is like what percentage? I have a problem with all the gyms that are going on in the district and all the private clubs that my taxes, I love the Mukwonago school system. I think it's great, all the money that goes into the kids for education, but all the athletics, I have a limit. What is the change from the gym size that we have now to the gym size of the new school?
The new school will have 3 full-size courts inside of 1 gym space, so rather than the sort of the 2 broken up gyms here, I don't think the older original gym accommodates 2 full-size courts like a tournament style setting. So it's not appreciably larger, but it has the 3 full-size courts to kind of serve that tournament style setting. We'll also have, again, appropriate size fitness, as well as some space, some multi-purpose space for wrestling event cages, you know, those types of things within that space as well.
I'm sorry.
apologize.
Okay.
Good questions.
Something's been kind of chewing on me a little bit. Everything I've heard and everything we've looked at in the slides, it's all about making bigger and better and state-of-the-art schools. I hear very little about, improvement in academics. The student pupil rate is about the same for Mukwonago as it is for the state in an average. But what are we doing to give our children better education when they walk out of that high school for the last time? I looked at the proficiency rates, and you did a good job talking about being careful with proficiency rates. And I'm not cutting Mukwonago. Like I said, I put 4 kids through the school system, and I've always enjoyed that. I thought you did a great job with the guys. Right now, from what I see, Mukwonago's got a 37.3% efficiency rate in math. The state average is 37.4. So you're right there, even with the state average. When you include Milwaukee, that's got 0 proficiency rate in some of their schools. Then you're looking at the reading academics. Mukwonago is running at a 40% efficiency rate out of high school versus the state average of 39. Why? Why do we have a state-of-the-art high school sitting over there that's larger than we need today? You're saying the population really isn't going to change much in a few years past or a few years forward. Then we're going to take and double the size of Parkview when you got no additional students coming. Or we can't tell the future, but the population trends look pretty flat.
No, I looked, forecasting ahead of the population trends that we have, that by 2035, that we would have 350 additional resident school-age children between 4K and 12 attending our schools in 2035. So there is a projection of growth.
350 kids out of, that's 7% growth.
Well, I guess you said flat, I just want to...
7% growth when you spend $102 million is a pretty small number.
So I guess, what's the question you have?
The question is, why are we building the Taj Mahals, the state-of-the-art schools, when you have no changes coming? You have a capital expenditure budget. In your budget right now, you should be able to replace the floors. Started addressing some of the issues with tuck pointing, addressing some of the mechanical issues. You have money in your budget for that.
Correct. And so the question now, I guess twofold. One, you asked about the high school. So the high school, when the high school renovation happened, and I know Kurt was involved with that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a desire at that time to improve the career and tech ed spaces that we had at the high school, as well as to provide the additional athletic facility and the additional opportunity for students in need of the arts or interested in the
arts.
arts.
For a change instead of all athletics.
What's that?
And arts for a change instead of all
Yes.
athletics.
So the investment was arts, career and tech ed, primarily renovation of the high school space with some expansion, but then the new gym, the new West gym at the high school. What we implemented at that time, as you talk about those proficiency scores, we also implemented at the same time a new building schedule. And we're now going to be going in and doing a new building schedule at the high school to increase the number of instructional minutes that kids get at MHS to address what you were talking about, those high school proficiency scores. So we are making instructional changes at MHS outside of any of this building talk at the middle school. That is happening.
Okay.
So, I mean, that,
To what degree is the new middle school, expansion at the middle school level, driven by the desire to have 4K in the elementary schools? Because it seems to me if the 6th graders were out of the elementary schools, there would be a space issue at the middle school.
so, correct. The addition of 4K at the elementary school would require space, which we don't have. We have had inconsistent partners for 4-year-old kindergarten and very high demand of our partners, right? So it's a program that's here, it's a highly popular program, and we believe that in order to provide consistency to our families and also a level of convenience for elementary families, so they don't have to go to a 4K site, to an elementary school, to a middle school, we're looking at that piece.
I understand all those things. To this gentleman's point, the enrollment's not going up. That's not what's driving the middle school. What's happening is we're expanding 4K in the elementary schools, and to accommodate those students,
We need to create some space. And the way to create space is to move the sixth graders to the middle school. So in effect, it appears to me, because there's not going to be a huge enrollment increase, it appears to me that this is driven, the middle school, new building, adding sixth grade, is not driven by enrollment, it's driven by the fourth grade, or 4K program.
It's not a point. There are 225, well, I can dig into, there's 225 4K students. That's it.
My belief is if they move them into the elementary schools, you'll have more than that. Because it's very desirable for parents.
Yeah,
when the
absolutely.
4K program is in the school that their other children are in. And if it's a full day program, they'll be even more enticed by that. So my point only was, your question, there's no enrollment increase. Why are we building? There will be, it's in the 4K. And that's why.
Well, we also, another part of this, and we hear it on a number of fronts. We've heard pros and cons from parents of sixth graders, like I want my kid to stay at the elementary level. We've heard that. But we've also heard from parents that we want them to go to the middle school, right? We've heard from our kids, right? And not that their kids drive the decision, they're not age eligible to vote. But we hear from our fifth graders that they're ready to go to the middle school, right? A common model for middle schools is grades 6, 7, and 8 in one building. And when you look at from the educational opportunities for sixth graders, as we talked about with math, music, science, technology, extra co-curricular opportunities, sixth graders placed at a middle school is a better fit than sixth graders placed at an elementary school. And that has come out through the community presentations that we've had. It's come out from comments from parents. And again, it was supported to the point that we're here having this meeting tonight by the community response that we had to the survey that we sent out in the fall of the year. Clint, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just, I mean, the other thing this is doing is again, it's helping us, again, creating the space for 4K, but then also prepping us. So a big component of phase 3 will be all day 4K as well. And I mean, that's a big driver for phase 3 and potentially continued expansion at the elementary as well. So again, getting the first step of having 4K space, and then again, ultimately, if 4K, the flexibility in the future to address that as well.
Good question.
Yeah, I just like historically to make a comment. People think that all referendums have passed. My kids went to Clarendon. Some of them were here. Some of them were where the library is at Washington. It took 5 referendums to get section school built, and then another couple referendums to get Rolling Hills built. So it was a long time there where referendums did not pass at all.
But since
But, you know.
since 98.
But yeah, but it finally turned its tide, because now those kids,
Yeah, my son had to go all the way to Guthrie School. Anybody know where Guthrie School is?
I know where
Yeah.
you are.
For kindergarten, he had to
My
go
son up there
from
too.
kindergarten from Guthrie, and we live right next to St. James.
And the other thing, Mr. Clubman, I've always felt that academics are more important than athletics. And if you go to a school board meeting and people come to talk about reading, there would be 7 people there. And somebody would want to take away the girls' golf course, and there would be 50 people there for 7 golfers. And over the years, there's some people here in the front row who they did their own fulfilling. They had light brigade so they could get lights on the girls' soccer team. They had other different things like that. So in this town, whenever athletics wanted something, somebody who spearheaded it got it done, and it got done by the community instead of by the taxpayers.
I just wanted to mention, I'm a past educator in Mukwonago, I've been here since 1975. So to your point, I think what Joanne was talking about with past referendums, the climate of Mukwonago has changed so greatly, and the needs of all of the schools have changed greatly, hence the building fell in place. And when you were talking about what's driving this space, I never felt in all the time that I was teaching here that Mukwonago ever did anything lush, plush, over the top. It was always driven by what are the academic needs and the betterment of the kids. And our curriculum was well researched, and we put in facilities that allowed that to happen for kids. Hence, I think that's why the high school looks the way it does. It's not meant to be what is a beautiful building, but it's meant to be a conducive atmosphere for kids to learn the best that they can learn. And if I taught here when I first started in 6th grade, and there were 30 kids in the same size rooms that they are presently holding now. And the way instruction is given now, you cannot teach that way with 30 kids in this size room. So education changes, the needs change, and if we can allow those people to do their jobs, I just think Mukwonago makes choices based on what the kids need the best for, and they're not thinking about, let's just get the 4K in. The program needs to work in a school, and the 6th graders are better in the middle school. It's been statistically shown that. So it's not based on just, let's put these kids in there.
I'd also like to point out that there's at least one class worth of 6th graders across all the elementary schools that is bused here every morning for math. So Rolling Hills, Clarendon, Section, 6th graders are busing here every morning at 6 a.m. to do math, and then going back to their elementary school every day. So there is that need as well.
Why?
Because they have been accelerated in math, so they are coming here every day to do 8th grade math. So they start their morning getting bused or driven to middle school to start early, and then they are headed back to the elementary school and will spend their day at the elementary school for the rest of the day. So there is that need as well.
Are there any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to make a comment. I was very involved in the middle or the high school project in 2016. I kind of reflect back to when we had these meetings in preparation for that project. And a lot of great questions, and that's what this meeting is about, is getting more information, right? But similar type of questions that we're having tonight. And it's cool to look back at what that project did for the high school. You know, remember the dungeon hall was the tech ed area, right? If you've been in there prior to the renovations, which now that one big part of that project was prepping students in the tech ed area, where it used to be just that group of people that was going directly into a trade. Now it's, you have the valedictorian working right next to that person that's going right into a trade out of high school, because it's a revised tech ed area that has computers and what industry wants, right? The cafeteria was a big driver of that. Much like you said, the cafeteria, you get 5 lunch periods at that point in time, right? Restricting classes, class options, because the cafeteria, that was a big driver. That's changed and has been a big improvement. It's cool to drive by there and see kids in the theater at night, in the band room, you see right along Highway NN. So just where there was questions like this back then, but being able to see what that high school project turned out to be and how kids use it and how it's been cool to look back, and I expect that with this project we'll have similar results. So.
I'm going to stand up so everybody can hear me. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm a little older than the average age in here. One has the best hearing. Now, I have 2 questions. One is, there's 2 parochial schools that are currently being expanded or currently being built. How does that impact the community? And number 2, if I'm not mistaken, in past referendums, often we had state and federal funding to help support the tax base. I've heard no comments regarding that. Did everybody hear the questions?
Yeah, I'll address your second. Is that it?
Yeah, just the 2. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll address the second question first about federal funding. When it comes to a referendum, it is funded by state dollars. So the 5% or 5.5% sales tax that you pay every time you buy something that goes to the state of Wisconsin, those dollars by and large go to support K-12 schools. So state aid along with local tax dollars is what drives a referendum. We do get a sliver of federal aid for our special education programs, So we have some certain specialized students who have very high and significant needs. We don't abandon those students, we teach those kids, but we get federal help to teach that. But there's no federal aid for a referendum. As for the two parochial schools, I think you're talking about St. John's Lutheran and St. James Academy, correct? Those two, you know, could that have an impact on us? Yes. Do we think that impact is going to be significant? Not enough to change this option that we're discussing here. We don't think that so many students would be going to those schools that would table this conversation right now. We don't see that.
It has to have some impact.
It does.
Available funding.
It does, but it's not, I'd say it's not a material impact. It's not a huge impact. But an impact nonetheless, but not huge.
And I don't know if you've answered my question regarding federal funding. When we've had past assessments for tax dollar to do an expansion and or build a new school, generally, at least in my experience, often federal funding is a precursor to assist the local taxpayer funding that school or addition.
So referendum are funded, they're a question for the community to say yes to or no to. There's no state or federal dollars that are coming in to support a referendum question.
I'm not talking about the referendum, I'm talking about supporting the building of the structure where you get federal dollars to help offset that cost.
No. So no, that is the referendum. The referendum goes to the cost. Now, some school districts have used energy efficiency programs that have gone with it to help reduce the cost. So if the federal government is offering you a certain percentage if you install this type of lighting, you can get money back. In 2018, and I don't know, Kurt, I'm looking at you, I don't know if safety grant dollars that were provided by the state helped going into the high school project or not, but in the 2018 timeframe, 18-19, some school districts had safety grant money that came from the state, but that was separate from what the actual referendum question was. I believe our question was 49.5 million. That $49.5 million that was levied from the community, that the community supported back in 2016, went to the construction of the high school. And you could comment if there were additional funds that were used to support that or not. But
we had some other donor funds for some athletic components that we did over and above, but the primary funding source was the 49.5 referendum.
So if the district received state equalized aid on the debt service payments?
Yes.
The state does contribute. So in that way, the state contributes to the payments on the debt that will be made over the years.
So for every dollar, typically for every dollar we spend in the school year, we get reimbursed 1 year later, about 50% of those costs. And every school district has a different percentage, but we get about 50% of our costs back 1 year later. So if we spend the money in 24-25, we get reimbursed in 25-26. So the state helps, but the feds do not.
But just for the regular, does not count for the building referendum, that state money?
Once?
Well,
no, they
you're
don't
getting 69 cents per 100,000, or $69 per 100,000. That the state doesn't pay towards that.
They do.
They do?
They do. That's known as a shared cost. The state shares in that cost.
yes, sir.
Along with the high school referendum of $49.5 million, there was also a second referendum for $7 million for maintenance of the new high school. And that was to run through 2037. What's going to happen with the high school and that money that you don't have in 2038? And what's it going to cost for additional maintenance here at the Parkview Middle School?
Well, we think that our Parkview Middle School energy spending will become more efficient because we're not running the age of the equipment that we're currently running. We'll be much more efficient energy-wise when we have more modern equipment and not aged boilers, aged HVAC units. We'll be able to program that on one platform and be efficient with that.
So we truly believe there won't be any additional maintenance costs with a brand new building that's twice this size?
Well, I think anytime you have a brand new furnace, it's gonna run more efficient. That's
There'll be more custodians because their square footage is bigger.
correct. Correct. You had asked about the $350,000. The $350,000 we levy each year for 20 years, which totals $7 million. That will expire in 2036 or 2037. You're asking me something about 15 years from now, what are we gonna do? I don't have an answer for you. It's too far down the road.
Well, we got $350,000 a year we're spending right now. That's just not magically going to cure all the ills like that, or it's just not going to go away?
I can't answer what's gonna happen next decade. Okay. It's too far down the road. I'd love to give you a straight answer. I'd be lying to you if I told you what we're gonna do in 2038. I won't be here. So I don't know what that next guy or girl's gonna do.
Any other questions?
If you have something you want to come up in here and ask me questions, or Joe will be up here, so.
So we have tours available. Luke Spielman, the building principal, Rila Becky, the assistant principal. They will take anybody who wants to take a walk around the building. And Tom and I will be available for any questions that you have afterwards.
Thanks for your
So
time.
thank you so much.